A mistake is never merely an event. It is a departure from one's own narrative of self. We often treat failure like a closed chapter, a single wound that must be endured and forgotten. But what if the moment we call a chance to restart is not really a fresh start at all, but simply a different arrangement of old material? We talk about second chances as if they were commodities, things granted by fortune or mercy. We view them through the lens of redemption, a clean slate wiped across the canvas of time. Yet this framing implies that the person who failed was somehow inherently flawed, requiring external forgiveness to be whole again. The philosophical stakes here are profound, touching on our fundamental understanding of self-worth and causality. If we believe that any lapse in judgment renders us fundamentally incomplete, then second chances become unattainable myths of erasure. The true lesson is not about being given a second shot. It is about how we build the next moment using the full weight of what came before. This thinking demands an engagement with Aristotle's concept of telos, or end goal. For Aristotle, every object has an inherent purpose toward which it strives, the acorn striving to be the oak tree. Applied to human life, this suggests that we are always moving toward some kind of completion, a realization of our potential self. But the framework gets complicated when we confront failure. If telos dictates a straight trajectory toward greatness, then every stumble becomes a catastrophic detour. We instinctively crave linear narratives, the climb, the peak, the lasting view. But human life is not a line. It is an accretion of overlapping moments, each containing both the achievement and the mistake. To truly accept second chances, or rather, to live into them, is to recognize that our self-definition does not reside at a single destination, but in the quality of the ongoing struggle itself. The difficulty lies in mistaking forgiveness for forgetting. Many popular narratives treat atonement as an act that requires scrubbing away memory entirely. We want the second chance to mean, let us pretend that year never happened. But history, both personal and cosmic, refuses such edits. The weight and texture of our errors, the moments we failed a person or ourselves, remain part of the structure. This leads us into the challenging territory illuminated by Paul Ricoeur. He argued that meaning does not simply reside in an action. It is negotiated through telling oneself a story. When we attempt to live off previous mistakes, we are not seeking to erase them. We are attempting to incorporate their factual reality into a new narrative framework. The mistake becomes data, information that informs the next choice of speech and movement. This process requires moving beyond simple guilt, the paralyzing feeling of unworthiness, and toward what some call responsible memory, acknowledging the damage while harnessing its instructive power. The crucial complication arises when we realize that the concept of chance itself is anthropocentric. We treat time, regret, and opportunity as if they operate based on our emotional needs for closure. Yet these forces are indifferent to our desire for a neat reset button. We often mistake circumstantial luck, a job opening, a new relationship, for genuine philosophical grace. But the deepest shifts happen not when external circumstances change, but when internal frameworks adjust. It is a shift in perspective that moves us from asking, "How do I undo this?" to asking, "Given what happened, what is the most honest action now?" This requires radical acceptance of contradiction. We must accept that we are simultaneously capable of great things and terrible failures. We must become comfortable with being unfinished. To live a life defined by second chances, then, is not an act of receiving grace. It is an arduous commitment to revision. It means accepting the fact that every attempt at perfection will fail, and yet choosing to continue the effort anyway. It requires building a self-concept that operates less like a finished statue and more like a geological strata, a place built up by compressed layers of time, error, and necessary continuation. The weight of the past is not something to be shed, but a material to be worked with. We learn that the most durable selves are those capable of integrating their own fallibility into their identity, without collapsing under the pressure of contradiction. So when we speak of second chances, of restarting after a profound failure or a painful departure, we should hear not a plea for erasure, but an affirmation of capacity. It is the ongoing proof that the self is generative, that it can process its own damage and continue to build meaning from the ruins. The true act of beginning again lies in honoring the specific contours of where you were broken, rather than pretending those lines never existed at all. This suggests that growth is not a straight line towards an idealized self, but rather a complex topography of resilience built upon uneven ground. To accept the second chance, to truly inhabit it, means accepting that the person who failed is foundational to the person who rises. We are therefore never merely starting over. We are continuing forward, carrying the necessary weight and wisdom of everything that has come before. This synthesis requires a difficult shift in perspective, viewing past mistakes not as definitive chapters of failure, but as essential data points on the map of who you are. If we consider this idea through the lens of existentialism, we realize that freedom is terrifying because it mandates responsibility for our own narrative. There is no inherent script provided. We must write it ourselves using the messy materials of lived experience. The second chance, then, becomes less a gift bestowed by others and more an internal declaration, a vow to oneself to engage with life's irreducible complexity. It is in that very contradiction, the desire for perfection against the reality of flawed human existence, that our deepest meaning resides. And so we return inevitably to the beginning, the idea that true self-definition is not found in flawlessness, but in the capacity to acknowledge the rupture and still proceed. The philosophy of the second chance isn't about wiping the slate clean. It's about learning how to write beautifully on chalk dust, a surface ephemeral, marked by erasure, yet capable enough to hold a beautiful, momentary pattern once more.